Flexbox is a very powerful tool that every CSS developer should be using. It makes making layouts very easy and intuitive. So let's take a look at how CSS Flexbox works and how we can implement it in our web applications as easy as possible. Hey everyone, I'm Kyland, and I love learning as much as I can about software and application development, and I love passing that knowledge on to others. So, if you want to learn as much as you can and or enjoy software or application development, make sure you hit that subscribe button, make sure you hit that like button, and turn on notification bells so you never miss another upload. Let's get into Flexbox. So Flexbox works on a parent-child basis. So you can see we've got the parent element here, and then inside of the parent element we have three child elements. Now these child elements are contained within the one single parent element. So the parent element is this outside green box, while the child elements are these inside red boxes. So if we go over here to the CSS, I've got the parent and we've got the child class selected. If we change this to display a flex on the parent element, now this parent element is going to conform to the child elements. So basically, I've set 100 by 100 pixels on each one of these child elements. So we've got 100 high by 100 wide. So flex items, which are the child elements are flex items, will take up the minimum amount of space required. So if we set display flex on the parent element, these child items will now be flex items. Alright, so if we were to give this parent element a height, of 300 pixels, alright, now you can see we've got a static height on the parent element, and these child elements are still staying in the minimum required space. Now if we take a look at this, we can see that the parent element, all of this area over here is extra space that can be used by the flex items. Alright, so if we wanted to say space these out a little bit, we could say justify content. Now we're going to specify that on the parent element, basically telling the child elements how they should define their layouts. So if we say justify content, and we say space between, we save that, now you can see that we've got one here at the front, one here in the middle, and one here at the end. And basically what's happening is the space between, the justify content space between, is going to space these elements. It's going to evenly space these elements so that there's an even amount of empty space between the three of them. So you've got an even amount of space here and an even amount of space here. Now, these elements can also be spaced evenly, which would look something like this. So now we've got an even amount of spacing before and after every single child element. And this helps a lot with layouts, understanding how each one of these justify content work. So if we were to justify content flex start, alright, it would just be, that's the default value of display flex if no justify content is defined. So it would help if I explained a little bit about the two different axes of the display flex. So basically you have a main axis and then you have the alternate axis, which the main axis is always the main direction of the Flexbox. So currently, the main axis is the horizontal axis, going left to right. All right. But if we were to change that, to flex direction column, now the main axis is up and down. So if we were to say justify content space around, it's not going to do anything because the main axis, the child elements are taking up all of the space of the parent element. So there's no space in between each element to space around. But if we were to change that back to here, now we've got even spacings all the way around. Well, basically what space around does is it gives a full space here, a full space here, and it'll give half spaces on each end. So the width of this is equal to half of the width of this. So we've probably got about 100 pixels here, and we got probably about 200 pixels here, or probably 50 pixels here and 100 pixels here, more accurately. And then we've got the same amount of spacing here as we do here, and we've got the same amount of spacing at the end as we do the beginning. So that is what the justify content does. Now, the align items property is the exact it's the exact opposite. Well, not opposite, but it's the exact opposite axis as the justify content. So if we align items, we're going to align the items based on the alternate axis. So if the flex direction is currently row, which is the default for flex direction, if the flex direction is row, then the alternate axis is going to be the vertical axis. If we have flex direction column specified, then the alternate axis is going to be the horizontal axis. So if we align item center, you'll see they align center based on the alternate axis, which is currently vertical because we have flex direction column. Now if we were to remove that or just change it to row, now you'll see that they align center based on the alternate axis, which is the horizontal axis. So it'll center the line along this axis right here. All right. Now, Flexbox isn't just based on the parent. In all actuality, most of the control comes from the child elements. The child elements have the majority of the control when it comes to Flexbox. So let me show you what that means. So right now we've got a flex direction of row, which means they're going from left to right, and they're aligned on the vertical axis. All right, we've got justify content space around. Let's change that to spaced evenly. So we have an even amount of space in between each one of them. And we've got align item center, which basically means that along this axis, they're center aligned right here. All right. So if we want to do something like to move this single child here, say we want this guy all the way up here at the top, but we don't want these two. All right. That would be as simple as just adding a class to the div that you want to rearrange. So in this case, I've got the child as the regular class that's affecting all of them, and then I've got child 1 here. Now child 1 is going to be this little square right here. Now if I want to move that guy up, all I have to do is use align, nope, not align items, but we're going to do align self to flex start. Alright, and that's going to align this item here to the start of that axis. So we're using the align, so it's going to be based off of the vertical axis, and we're just saying instead of items with within the parent element, we're just saying self. So you yourself, you only, are going to align to the top here, and the rest of them will will stay in place. So just to recap, display flex is defined on the parent element of the child elements that you want to manipulate. So these 3 elements here, this is the parent. All right. The flex direction, the default is row, which is the vertical axis. All right, and by default it will be at flex start. So if we didn't have these here, it would align to the flex start of the vertical or the horizontal axis. All right. So the justify content is, it defines how you space the child elements according to the current axis that it's on. All right, so the current main axis. So if our flex direction, by default, our flex direction is row. If our flex direction is row, then the justify content will space it along the vertical axis or the horizontal axis. The align items will align the items based on the alternate axis or the vertical axis. The vertical axis is the one going up and down. The horizontal axis is the one going left and right. So if we are defining align items center, it will center along this axis. So it'll find the center of this axis here, and it'll align all of the items based on that. And then the justify content is along the main axis, which is the horizontal axis, as long as flex direction is row, and it will align everything along the horizontal axis. All right. So what if we have a flex direction of column? Let me just remove this right here so it's a little more clear. So if we have flex direction column, now everything is stacking, because this is the main axis. The vertical axis is the main axis now. So if we were to give this height of 600 pixels, now you can see that the vertical axis is the main axis, and the horizontal axis is the alternate axis. So the justify content on the flex direction column is going to define on the vertical axis. All right, so it's got an even amount of space here, then you've got the element, then an even amount of space here, element, space, element, space. All right, so now the align items property is currently centering along the alternate axis, which is now the horizontal axis. So if we set this to flex start, they're all going to go to the start, and the same for the end, they'll all go to the end. So we've got the main axis, which is the horizontal or the vertical axis. And then we've got the alternate axis, which is the horizontal axis whenever we have flex direction column set. All right, and we can still manipulate the children elements with align self flex start. And this one child element will then align itself based on the alternate axis to the start. All right, so it's going to align itself at the start of this axis. All right. Um, so that is a very basic intro to display flex and how flex items work. If you did enjoy, please make sure you hit the like button. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. I'll try to answer as many as I possibly can. I know this stuff is very tricky and can be a little overwhelming, so don't let it get to you. Just practice, play with it, and I promise you, eventually you will get it. It does come. I promise it does. No matter how frustrated you may be, because I know I was for a very long time with Flexbox, just don't give up on it. Just keep working, and you've got this, alright? So, if you do like, make sure you hit the like button. If you want to see more content, make sure you hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bells so that way you get notified anytime I upload another video. And if you love learning as much as I do, stay tuned.